All right, guys, let's take our seats. I'm sorry we had a quick board briefing in the other room, so I apologize for the delay. So we never adjourned the meeting, so the meeting of the Broadcasting Board of Governors is still in effect, and the webcast is still in effect, and we're now turning to the deep dive from Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty. So John and Nenad, our esteemed permanent interim team, why don't you guys take it away?
Thank you. Welcome, and thank you all for coming to RFERL's deep dive today. Before we begin the presentation, I'd just like to take a minute and make a personal note. I am honored and humbled to be working with RFERL, particularly at this time. Our people and the dedication to our mission are an absolute inspiration to me. I'd also like to point out that standing here in Washington, D.C. Today, I cannot possibly convey to you what RFERL is, who we are, and what we do. Therefore, instead, we're going to start with a short video that gives you just a taste of who we are today.
Welcome to the world of Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty. For more than 60 years, we've served as a surrogate source of objective news and information in societies where the media is far from free. These are places where local and international news is controlled by the government or the powerful oligarchs who support them. Our job? To bring our audience uncensored news about their world. News about politics, the economy, culture, the environment, and the society around them. The kind of news they can't get anywhere else. Each week we connect with 23 million people in the Balkans, the former Soviet Union, Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan, and Pakistan. RFERL employs more than 500 people in our Prague headquarters and 1,100 journalists in our 19 bureaus and around the world. With that kind of people power and regional expertise, RFERL is able to provide its 28 local markets with the kind of news and information they can't get without a free press of their own. RFERL is a name that only exists in English. We have local brand names and brand equities in each of our 28 languages. And we're not just radio anymore. RFERL connects with audiences across the full spectrum of delivery platforms: radio, television, satellite, social media, internet, and mobile web, including iPhone and Android apps. Of course, communication is a two-way street. Our audiences interact with us through calls, SMS, web forums and comments, citizen journalist reports, blogs, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Each of RFERL's markets is unique, with distinct editorial agendas and different challenges for connecting with our target audiences. In Afghanistan, we reach over 43% of adults each week on radio. In Kyrgyzstan, nearly 3 in 10 adults tune in to Radio Azatik Weekly via primetime TV and radio. In Russia, where authorities have forced local radio stations to stop carrying our programs, the internet has become the primary delivery vehicle for reaching our audience. RFERL's journalists are committed to bringing free media to their countries, and many of them suffer for that commitment. They are routinely beaten up or arrested. Some have paid with their lives. All of them are dedicated to our mission. For them, this isn't just a job, it's a passion. And it's that passion that produces innovation and impact. In Azerbaijan, our journalists filmed traffic police taking bribes in the capital, Baku. The video went viral, leading to the dismissal of all 3 officers. In neighboring Armenia, RFERL's Azatatune is a pioneer in live streaming protests and other events the state media won't touch. And in Ukraine, as mass anti-government protests erupted into fierce street battles, RFERL journalists reported around the clock from the heart of the crisis. Every day, RFERL is making a difference in its target countries and to the people who live there. Independent information for independent people. That's RFERL.
With our Prague broadcast headquarters, 19 local bureaus, and over 1,000 journalists, RFERL is the epitome of forward deployed. We are at the epicenter of the events shaping these countries and people's lives. Here's a look at RFERL's global footprint, where we have local bureaus, correspondents, and stringers. RFERL's proximity to its audiences facilitates the production of exclusive, relevant, locally oriented programming in a cost-effective manner. This truly sets RFERL apart. Our journalists seek to hold officials accountable as well as provide informed, fact-based reporting to audiences that are otherwise captive to state-run media. They also give voice to the voiceless. They do this work because they believe in it, and they know it to be a fundamental building block of civil society. Their hard work, passion, dedication does not go unnoticed. RFERL journalists have received a range of international awards in the last year. Additionally, senior correspondent Golnaz Asfandiari, who's actually joined us here today, editor of the award-winning Persian Letters blog, was tagged for the third year in a row in Foreign Policy's Top 100 Twitterati list. Congratulations. The Guardian newspaper named digital editor Glenn Cates one of the top tweeters on the post-Soviet world. In Afghanistan, RFERL Regional Director Akbar Ayazi moderated the nationally televised presidential candidate debates this year and in 2009. In Moldova, Vasil Batsnaru was named one of the top 50 most influential people in a reader survey conducted by one of the country's most widely read magazines. His colleague, Valentina Ursu, was selected in a survey of Moldovan politicians last year as the one journalist whom they could never refuse an interview. Eliza Kenanbayeva, host of the Kyrgyz Services youth program Azatik Plus, was named Kyrgyzstan's best television host in 2013. According to Freedom House's 2014 Freedom of the Press report, press freedom worldwide has fallen to its lowest level in more than a decade. 14 out of the 21 countries that we broadcast to are defined by Freedom House as not free. The remaining 7 are categorized as just partly free. Our journalists are relentlessly persecuted by those in power. Hadija Ismailova, an international award-winning investigative journalist for the Azerbaijani service, has been the target of smear campaigns and intimidation since 2012 in retaliation for her reporting on the financial activities of the country's ruling family. She was also accused of spying for the United States after meeting with Senate staffers in Baku this spring. Prominent journalist and RFERL contributor Vitaly Portnikov fled Ukraine in January after learning from sources in Russia that Ukrainian authorities at that time planned to kill him. This was before Yanukovych left the country, the prior government. In July, the head of the Crimea desk, Vladimir Pritula, relocated his family and ultimately left Crimea himself after several encounters with the FSB operating on the peninsula. On a regular basis, members of our Prague-based Persian language service, Radio Farda, as well as their family members in Iran, are the subject of harassment, threats, and intimidation. RFERL has relocated its correspondents in Afghanistan on numerous occasions to protect them from threats. Afghan reporters have also been detained and kidnapped. Last year, our Kabul bureau chief was on the Taliban's suicide attack list. We also had to take extraordinary security measures in response to fatwas in Pakistan. Earlier this summer, we relocated 3 journalists as the Islamic State of Syria and the Levant seized Iraq's northern and western districts. In all of these cases, our reporters continue to work with RFERL in spite of the attacks and threats.
So what does a typical day at RFERL looks like? Our Prague colleagues and colleagues in the Bureau at the moment report from 2 wars, Ukraine and Iraq, from 3 countries that anti-terrorist and anti-insurgency campaign going on, Pakistan, Afghanistan, and North Caucasus, from 4 countries that have frozen conflict, Georgia, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Moldova, from 5 countries that came out of the war, but hatred is still so huge that I wouldn't be surprised that they go to war again. It's the Balkans, so Serbia, Bosnia, Kosovo, Montenegro, and Macedonia. And finally, from 6 countries with authoritarian regimes, Russia, Kazakhstan, Iran, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, and Belarus. Before we continue, we were thinking how to put RFERL in one word, so we choose 4. And also we were thinking how to illustrate this. So let me take you to a little journey to Ukraine. 1 minute video.
Я почав разом з людьми робити отаку штуку. Я мав надію, що вона захистить мене від гумових куль і від осколків гранат, які там рвалися. Це пластини з міцної сталі з будівельного магазину. Це кріплення для будівництва. Тут я їх нашив по формі наших давньоруських обладунків, які використовувалися в часи Київської Русі. І трошки воно недороблене. Тут ще мають бути пластини, тут і на спині.
Fortunately, Yevhen Solonia did not use his homemade armor. A day later, RFERL delivered protective gear for all Kiev journalists. But Yevhen from our bureau symbolized the heart of RFERL, the people that are extraordinarily committed to do their jobs and eager to go where the action is, to get the story, to tell the truth despite the risks involved. This is RFERL. Please don't let our name fool you. RFERL is a misnomer on a number of accounts. First, we broadcast well beyond Europe. You will see here that, look at the audience breakdown, and you see the Afghanistan-Iran account for over half of RFERL global audience of 23 million. Secondly, we are much more than radio. We reach audience on their preferred platforms, and that means we have shifted our focus in many markets to providing digital content via online and mobile, web, SMS, mobile apps, social networks, and in some markets, local and satellite TV. Thirdly, to enhance our video and TV capabilities, in the last several years, RFERL has begun developing TV video operations. To date, Moscow, Tbilisi, Yerevan, and Kiev have underwent major multimedia upgrades. We currently have operations, TV operations for 13 countries. An example of one of our TV news programs is Radio Farda's Breakfast with News, which is carried on VOS and Radio Farda's satellite channel. Thanks to Breakfast News, Radio Farda's weekly audience jumped to 9% and now reaches 6 million Iranians weekly. This is an increase of almost 3 million over 2013. We look forward to expanding, of course, Radio Farda's ability to do more and better quality TV. In September 2013, we launched RFERL Video Roundup, a package of short original news videos and reporting from our broadcast region. In Kyrgyzstan, Afghanistan, and Tajikistan, these roundups are regularly aired by local TV stations. Some of these stories have been picked up by CNN, Reuters, Yahoo News, and Vice News. RFERL has content sharing agreement with Reuters, The Atlantic, CNN, USA Today, and The Guardian for use of our stories. Powerful video journalism, like the one you see from Iraq, is an area that RFERL wants to further develop. We have more than 200 video recording devices on the ground, smartphones, flip cameras, and small handheld cameras that are capable of shooting videos. And now we are going to give you more details. Our colleagues from Prague will give you a little bit more about our daily operations there.
Hello from Prague. I'm Glenn Cates, RFE-REL's digital and social media editor. I'm going to start with mobile, because mobile isn't the future, mobile is now. Mobile internet will likely overtake desktop this year, and in some of our regions, it's already the dominant tool. Our Uzbek service recognized this early and took action. It has since seen extraordinary mobile site usage, surpassing its desktop version. The Kyrgyz service, Radio Free Afghanistan Pashto, Radio Mashal, and the Turkmen service mobile sites have also outpaced their desktop versions. And it's going to get better. When we introduce responsive design, these efforts will become seamless, creating a rich, consistent experience between desktop and mobile. Social media is critical to our daily journalistic efforts, helping us to source information and spread it. And the numbers show. On Facebook, Radio Farda has over 1 million fans and hundreds of thousands on pages devoted to popular programs. The Ukrainians, meanwhile, have almost 400,000 followers on their key social networks. And it's not just the official accounts. Our journalists are quickly becoming brands in and of themselves, retweeted by presidents, mentioned by thought leaders, and cited by top news outlets during breaking news events. A sound digital strategy relies on showing, not telling. And RFE-REL services are increasingly using data visualizations, interactives, and infographics to present information in a dynamic and engaging format. These have been picked up by major publications, and some have been shared over 100,000 times. As RFE-REL video production has grown, so has the importance of YouTube, and it has become a particularly important medium in regions that otherwise seek to block our content at every turn. The Uzbek service, whose site is censored in authoritarian Uzbekistan, has an average of 1.5 million YouTube views monthly. The Armenian service has had around 500,000 views monthly since the channel first launched, and has grown to nearly 650,000 per month over the past half year. Of course, the platform is only as good as the content. Video uploaded to Facebook often goes viral within the medium, and listeners hear and share Farda content uploaded to SoundCloud thousands of times, while the Turkmen service uses the audio tool to avoid censors both in gathering and distributing the content.
Hello, I am Mardo Sogom, Regional Director for Iran and Iraq, and I'm going to talk about the broad variety of RFE-RL's programming. It's said that man does not live by bread alone, and our audiences expect more from RFE-RL than traditional news. With this in mind, RFE-RL broadcasts several satire programs. Our best example of this is Radio Farda's Radio Pas Farda.
امضا رادیو پس فردا.
In Iran, Persian-language Radio Farda offers a 24/7 mix of news, music, and satire. Farshid Manafi, a well-known personality in Iran before authorities there forced him off the air, has attracted a loyal following for his Pas Farda show, a sharp commentary on the day's events.
سلام به اون سیاستمداری که نه خودشو سانسور میکنه نه دیگرانو. اونی که معتقد دانستن حق مردمه. ای بابا این سلاممون که حروم شد رفت.
Well, let me tell you what these names mean. Radio Farda means Radio Tomorrow, and the satire show Radio Pas Farda means Radio the Day After Tomorrow. Another example of a satire show is the Azerbaijani services 250 plus.
Millət, kim bilir, yatdan sonra Azərbaycanda ikinci ən böyük partiya hansıdır? Parlamentə diqqətlə baxıb, belə bir partiyanı tapmağa çalışdıq. Bütün Azərbaycan Xalq Cəbhəsi partiyası? Yox, Böyük Qurtuluş partiyasıdır. Cavanşir, bir dəqiqə bura gəl.
Yox, kollega. Məncə Vətəndaş Həmrəyliyi partiyasıdır.
Razıyam, Vətəndaş Həmrəyliyi partiyasıdır. Bu partiyada millətə düppədüz 3 nəfər vəkil edir.
A new area of development for RFE-RL is documentary production. To give you just a small sampling, here is a short clip from a joint production of our Central Newsroom and Belarus service. Oswald in Minsk.
before the motorcade. Before the 6th floor sniper's nest. Before Dallas. There was Minsk. For more than 2 years at the start of the 1960s, the capital of the Soviet Republic of Belarus was home to Lee Harvey Oswald, a self-declared Marxist following his defection to the Soviet Union. The man later accused of assassinating President John F. Kennedy tried to renounce his American citizenship and was sent from Moscow by Soviet authorities to work at a Minsk radio factory.
Next, we have a short clip from our Armenian Services video documentary about ethnic Armenian refugees of the Syrian civil war restarting their lives in their ethnic homeland. The Armenian version of this documentary aired in April on Armenia's largest television network, Armenia TV.
This is Aleppo. Only 3 years ago, it was one of the largest, richest, and most prosperous cities of Syria and the entire Middle East. A once powerful bridge connecting east and west was also home to thousands of Armenians for centuries.
What does the inscription say? God is great.
Armenians, whose ancestors a century ago were deported from their homes in Ottoman Turkey and driven all the way through the Deir-ez-Zor desert to build their lives anew after surviving hell, had to flee their homes and embark on a road of emigration again, this time towards their homeland.
Programming about music also highlights restrictive government policies in a more subtle manner than straight-up reporting on a subject. Playing music condemned and banned by the authorities embodies the spirit of freedom of expression. Radio Farda's musical programming breaks the government ban on pop music and helps to foster cross-cultural communication and respect by combining both Persian and Western music in the same mix. Musical programming is condemned by the Taliban, and a number of prominent musicians in Afghanistan and Pakistan have been killed or injured in attacks. Both Radio Azadi and Mashal feature music in their programs, including a program specially produced for Mashal by Harun Bacha, a famous Pashto musician who was forced to flee Pakistan.
Hello, I'm Uzbek Service Director Alisher Siddiq, and I'm here to discuss innovation. RFE services are finding new ways to employ the latest digital and online innovations. We are reaching audiences governments wish to keep in the dark. In Uzbekistan, RFE's bureau was shut down by the government in 2005. Radio Ozotlik has used Skype and WhatsApp to create a strong network of thousands of contacts. The service has developed a highly popular program that allows users to interact with us directly via Facebook and Skype. Most recently, the service launched the Ozot Wiki project. Like virtually every other independent information initiative, Wikipedia is currently blocked inside Uzbekistan. The Ozot Wiki project involves hyperlinking selected words and phrases that are used in Radio Ozotlik reports to entries in Wikipedia where they are defined and explored. Our Tatar Bashkir service, Radio Azatlik, also launched a special project, Wikipedia in Azatlik. It promotes Tatar language content and raises awareness of Azatlik among Tatar users of Wikipedia. The preservation of ethnic identity and language is an important aspect of the service's mission. These are just a few examples of the ways in which RFERL language services are innovating. Next, we would like to turn to a real engine of innovation within RFERL and USAGM, our Pangia team, which has the distinction of developing the content management system used by 4 BBG networks.
Hello, I'm Kim Conger, Deputy Director of the RFERL Pangia team. 7 years ago, with a team of 11, RFERL made the strategic decision to custom design its own scalable content management system, built with and for the needs of our journalists. Over the years, Pangia has grown into a best-in-class tool, serving text, video, audio, and photo content, as well as transcoding, video editing, social network integration, live blogs, audio-video show scheduling, and live internet video streaming. Pangia proved to be so successful and efficient for RFERL that in 2012, the USAGM adopted it as a common platform for Voice of America, Middle East Broadcasting Networks, and the Office of Cuban Broadcasting. This achieved significant cost savings for USAGM while providing a superior product for its journalists. What makes Pangia unique is its integration and ease of use. All forms of content are supported on a single platform. This integration enables quick, seamless publishing not only to a desktop site, but also directly to mobile applications, mobile websites, and other internet distribution partners. Pangia is also tightly integrated with popular social media sites, such as YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. One click in Pangia and the content is live instantly on both platforms, saving valuable time as there is no need for an editor to upload content twice. It is also simple to share any content type between services and even between Pangia-supported BBG entities. A top VOA editor had this to say: Pangia is our 4th CMS at VOA and by far the best. With new features added monthly, we are able to keep pace with news delivery technology that is rapidly changing. We appreciate the sophisticated interface, robust web platform, and modern design for publishing our content to the Internet. The move to Pangia was the right choice. Significant cost savings, less duplication, superior product, happy journalists. Now let's look at the impact of our work. Today, our team of highly skilled web professionals design, develop, and create new tools monthly for more than 150 BBG news sites. This small team of 31 leads the way for USAGM Internet content distribution, development, design, and innovation. The audience reach is wide. More than 1.5 million unique users visit a Pangia-supported BBG news site every day. These sites operate in 60 languages for audiences in over 200 countries and territories around the world. And it is important to note, Pangia is a secure solution that meets the standards of the Federal Information Security Management Act. We have also been recognized internationally for our work. For the 3rd year in a row, RFERL has been recognized at the prestigious Webby Awards as an official honoree in the radio and podcast category. And this year, for the first time, we are recognized as an official honoree in the mobile device news category. VOA's mobile app, a clone of RFERL's news app designed by the Pangia team 3 years ago, was a finalist for the Best Mobile Publishing Product or Service in the GSMA 2014 Global Mobile Awards. Always seeking to innovate, our team also developed Pangia TV and the Pangia Go smartphone app. Here's a short video that demonstrates the power of these communication tools.
The idea of this application is that our reporters can send their report instantly from any point in the world through mobile devices.
Moscow demonstrations recently were pretty violent in terms of both the participants and the police. So we managed to send our correspondents with a little device like Samsung phone, not noticeable, not heavy, and we got a picture from 3 different locations from within the crowd.
Pangia Go is an instant reporting tool in the pocket, without the expense or setup that is necessary for conventional live TV broadcasting. Because of its size, it's also inconspicuous, a big advantage to keep our reporters safe. Pangia Go instantly connects the reporter on the ground with Pangia TV's Show Manager interface. The live video from the reporter is received, and is streamed in real time to internet users all around the world.
In this moment, we are using this device just for the live streaming. In the future, we want to improve it, and our journalists can use it for deliver the articles, images, videos, or basically anything, any content what could be stored in this device.
The number of mobile devices and the quality of internet connections grows every day around the world. Pangia TV and Pangia Go are positioned to lead the way forward with the latest technology, enabling our journalists to report anywhere, anytime, instantly on the web. We have many exciting plans for the future. Responsive design and smart TV apps are two key products we are looking forward to launching next year. For several months, our team has been intensely working on responsive web design for USAGM. Here's a sneak peek at our new design. Clean, elegant, and easy to use. Responsive web design is one code base that is developed to optimally display content, images, and multimedia for any environment on any device. Simply put, one website that is built in a smart way to work seamlessly anywhere. Small screens and large, fast networks and slow, new devices and old. And we're not just developing in English. The website has to work with right-to-left languages such as Arabic and up-to-down languages such as Chinese. To our knowledge, we are the only team that is developing responsive design news sites for so many languages. Our closest peer is the BBC with 32 languages, almost half of what we do. We look forward to launching responsive design for our users. Another exciting product we will be working on is smart TV technology, delivering RFERL content directly to living room televisions. We plan to design our pilot application with 2 languages and eventually add more languages and more platforms, such as Apple TV, Google Chromecast, and Amazon Fire TV. Our small, very hardworking, and dedicated team is instrumental in the success of USIM Digital. Pangia, the innovation of online journalism.
Hello, I am Ukrainian Service Director Mariana Drach. I believe we have much to be proud of in the last year. First and foremost, good planning and foresight led to dynamic coverage of the evolving situation in Ukraine. It began with preparations for the Vilnius summit, where former President Yanukovych declared Ukraine would not move forward with signing an association agreement with the European Union. It continued in the streets of Kyiv and with the annexation of Crimea and violence in the east and south Ukraine. Here is a closer look at our coverage and its impact.
When Ukraine's violent anti-government protests erupted, Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty was there. The right place, the right time, the right people. RFERL journalists provided an overview of dramatic and historic events few could match. They scaled any height to capture images that quickly traveled around the world. ABC News, Euronews, The New York Times, Yahoo News, many of the world's leading news organizations look to RFERL's coverage of the rapidly changing events.
Dramatic scenes in Kiev on Sunday.
Throughout the crisis in Ukraine, RFERL video was a regular feature on CNN.
What overtures is the government in Kiev making?
RFERL journalists were on the ground, gathering news in the thick of the fight. Getting close to the action also meant getting close to danger. They were fired on, beaten, abducted, threatened, and arrested. In Kiev, Kharkiv, and Crimea, pro-government thugs and security forces unleashed their fury on RFERL's reporters. The dedication and bravery of those covering this compelling story and live-streamed video coverage translated into big numbers for the website of the Ukrainian service, radiosvoboda.org. December brought 7 million visitors, January 9 million, February almost 11 million. In March 2014, as Russian forces took control of Crimea, those numbers held steady, hitting a total of 40 million visitors and 76 million page views over just 4 months. The intense street fighting and scenes of Russian troops on the move grabbed the world's attention. But the battle to bring timely and accurate information to the people of Ukraine, Russia, and the surrounding region is just beginning.
Besides Ukraine, live coverage of trials, protests, and other major events paid off with big dividends in Russia, Armenia, Azerbaijan, and Belarus. RFE-RL's timely investment in live streaming technologies were critical to this success. In March 2014, RFE-RL, with State Department and BBG funding, launched a Crimea website in 3 languages: Russian, Ukrainian, and Crimean Tatar. The site provides uncensored, accurate, and objective information to audiences in this hard-to-reach area. Since its launch, the Russian language version has attracted over 6.8 million visits and 11.4 million page views. 80% of the visits are from Ukraine, with 6.6% coming from Crimea. We count this as an all-around success, an example of our flexibility and agility to respond quickly, even before receiving any funding.
Hi, I'm Russian Service Director Irina Lagunina. Turning now to Russia, our Russian service website has experienced impressive gains in traffic. In March 2014, as Russia was consolidating its hold on Crimea, the service's svoboda.org webpage registered 6.7 million visits and over 15 million page views. The number of visits and page views more than doubled in the past 6 months. Radio Svoboda's Facebook fan page dramatically increased the number of fans and registered improvement in engagement metrics. The service's Facebook fan page has over 200,000 fans. In March 2014, more than 1.1 million people engaged with content on Facebook. On average, more than 11,400 people are talking about Svoboda's content daily.
I'm Central Newsroom Director Jeremy Branston. In Western and international media, RFE-RL reporting has been increasingly recognized. Each week, between 15 and 20 major Western and international media outlets reference RFE-RL reports. RFE-RL reporting resonates not only with listeners and viewers, but it also has real and lasting impact. What do we mean by this? As a result of our reporting and programming, we see people's daily lives change, local authorities take action, and policies shift. It also means we often influence the news agenda. Our audiences are informed, they are engaged on a wide variety of issues, and they are connected in a wider debate and discussion. Here are just a few of the numerous recent examples of how our journalism does just that. In Turkmenistan, our users contact the service to voice frustrations about their living conditions, such as difficulty in finding medical care or having their homes demolished for construction projects. In many cases, RFE-RL reporting led officials to take steps to redress those grievances, proof of the concrete impact journalism can have, not only on the daily lives of individuals, but also on the development of civil society. Some of these video reports have been shared over 40,000 times on Azatlik's Facebook page, which now has the largest following of any Facebook page in the Turkmen language. When fighting between Iraqi security forces and al-Qaeda-linked insurgents intensified in Anbar province on June 7th and 8th, Radio Free Iraq was on the ground recording some of the dramatic scenes. When militant extremists with the Islamic State in Iraq and the Levant seized strategic areas of western and northern Iraq, insurgents shut down RFI's FM transmitters in Mosul and Tikrit. Listeners who have come to depend on RFI since it took to the airwaves in 1998 contacted its reporters by phone to request that these much-needed broadcasts resume. On June 21st, the head of a prominent Belarusian human rights center, Ales Bialatsky, was freed from prison. He spent 4.5 years behind bars on charges widely considered to be politically motivated. Speaking at a press conference after his release, Bielatsky thanked Radio Svoboda journalist Alech Hruzdilovich for his steadfast coverage of the case, which kept both Bielatsky's plight and that of other political prisoners in the media spotlight. In terms of influencing the local news agenda, RFERL language services are widely quoted. This chart shows that in 1 week alone, RFERL was quoted, on average, 220 times a day in local media. Efforts to censor RFERL content are also a sign of our impact. In fact, the Iranian regime fears Radio Farda so much that they jam our radio signal in Iran and have rendered proxy provider Siphon ineffective. Farda web stats began to plummet after the Siphon proxy stopped working in January 2014, from 19 million visits in January to around 5 million currently. Proxies are a constant cat-and-mouse game with regimes like Iran. USAGM needs to be on the cutting edge of proxy development and circumvention tools.
I would like you to take one sentence after this video. Every single video you saw was shot by our RFERL journalists. We face a number of significant challenges in Russia and Ukraine, but we welcome them and relish the opportunities they present. Countering Russia propaganda, we're requiring redoubling efforts for further changes. We have been doing a lot. More needs to be done. Our Russian service has rebounded in terms of its web traffic. Our stats are better than in 2012. We want to further expand our online growth. To do so, we need to be more dynamic and more innovative. It's going to be difficult and challenging, but it could be done. How are we responding to Russian propaganda? We developed several new rubrics focusing on debunking myths and lies propagated by Russian media. With additional funding, hopefully, up to you, we would like to further develop these as a regular shows or segments. This includes Lie of the Day, Ukraine Unspun, and Footage versus Footage. On July 21st, we convened a working level meeting in Prague of public broadcasters from Ukraine, Latvia, Lithuania, Moldova, and Poland, along with VOA, to discuss joint initiatives to counter Russian propaganda in the Russia periphery. The focus of our talks was launching 30 minutes TV daily news. Since the 21st, we have appointed executive editor of the show. We have appointed executive producer. We have chosen the name, moderators hired. Our goal is to produce the pilot by early September. We are currently in discussion with producers of Czech political satire program. We are interested in creating a show directed at the Russian market. The Ukrainian service has launched a number of new TV programs. There is Mira Zom, which means We Together. It's 30 minutes weekly program in partnership with satellite television network First Ukraine. We also have Donbass Realities, a 15 minutes, twice weekly Russian language program on Donbass TV about events in the restive eastern area of Ukraine. And there is Crimea Realities as well, a 20 minutes weekly programs on the Ukrainian satellite television news channel 24 that address developments on the Russian annexed peninsula. In Moldova, we have already doubled our radio and online content targeting the breakaway Transnistria region, the program in Russian, and we are now preparing for 10 minutes daily TV operation there in both languages. In addition, we are also in process of launching Russian language web page for Central Asia. We are preparing ourselves for 30 minutes daily TV news in Russian for Central Asia. We got some encouraging news from Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan. On this, they are ready to take it. And we also plan to develop our popular Caucasus Crossroads program, which combines the efforts of our Azeri, Armenian, and Georgian services. We want to turn it into a TV and video program.
We do our best with the resources we have on hand, making the most of them. Sometimes what we literally do is held together by elbow grease and Scotch tape. Definitely not ideal. We're happy to report that multimedia bureau build-outs in Baku and Chisinau are currently in the works, with Dushanbe and Kabul next in line. To date, Our Moscow and Kiev bureaus are both able to stream high-quality video to Prague and the Cohen Building. We would like to extend this interconnectivity between Prague and our bureaus in Yerevan and Tbilisi. We plan to continue with multimedia transformations. We will start building our Prague TV video facilities to support the new FARDA and the Russian language TV projects and to meet the growing demands of other services as they further expand in television.
While we are pleased with the progress we have made in last year, we know that we can do always better. We have strong content, but we need to be smarter when it comes to packaging it. We recognize the opportunity to continue to improve our journalism and how we present the journalism to our audience. RFE RL refuses to stand still in this regard. While we have taken many successful steps to integrate our language service with our central newsroom, further integration is necessary. The more closely these units work together, the stronger our product will be. In terms of journalism, we need to focus on better quality stories and follow them from start to finish. This includes rethinking how we assign and execute stories. We need to do fewer stories, but higher quality ones. The less is more. In the last year, it has become more and more difficult for our people to do their job. In Russia, Ukraine, Crimea, Belarus, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iran, Iraq, Moldova, Azerbaijan. In all of these countries, the pressure is high. Another possibility we face is potential bureau closures. This could hamper our ability to get quality stories from these places. Of course, we do have contingency plans for these scenarios. In April, our Georgian service ramped up to 18 hours daily on the Greenwave National FM network in Georgia, thanks to IBB as well. Thanks for the support. Part of our broadcast hours now includes VOS Georgian service, special English and music mix, as well as RFE Armenians, Azeri, Russian, and Echo Caucasus content. This was a tremendous opportunity we couldn't pass up. The withdrawal of international troops from Afghanistan will also further stretch our Afghan operations. This changes the game everywhere. We expect this to have repercussions not only in Afghanistan, but of course in Central Asia as well.
What we do is critical in the countries in which we operate. Given the continued negative trend in media and political freedoms in many of our target countries, our mission is as important as ever. We're proud of the success of the Balkan service and Radio Free Iraq, but we need to keep speaking to these audiences. Communities remain divided in the Balkans and censorship is on the rise. Our job is not finished there. With events in Iraq spiraling, RFI has received numerous messages about signal problems and the desire of listeners to receive our news. One recent message sums up about how our audience feels about Radio Free Iraq. RFE serves as a lifeline for people living in war zones and under authoritarian rule who have little access to independent and reliable information. We are on the front lines sharing public opinion. We have unique access to regions in conflict, players, and the people. We serve U.S. national security interests by combating nationalism, extremism, radicalism, and building civil society. To paraphrase the late Czech playwright, dissident, and former President Václav Havel, RFE provides intellectual nourishment, moral inspiration, and the seeds of civil society and democratic growth and development.
So we have talked about who we are, where we are, and what we have been doing. As we close, we would like to share with you where RFE is headed. Number one, we desire to be engine of dynamic programming. Number two, investigative reporting will be a core enterprise. Number three, we want to be one on the leading edge of merit journalism and technology and engage audience. Number four, our Prague headquarters will serve as BBG TV video production center for all USAGM, of course. Number five, to reach our content, we will enhance our regional network. For example, we plan to build a ring around Iran, in Baghdad, Erbil, Dubai, Ankara, Yerevan, Baku, and Beirut. Number six, our regional studios in Prague will be interconnected. Number seven, we will establish and deepen cooperation with partner stations in the Russian periphery. Number eight, we plan to launch 24/7 Russian language digital channel and expand Russian language TV. Number 9, we will better integrate production and presentation of Russian service content. Number 10, we want to place native English reporters in some of our bureaus and strategic reporting locations. This will strengthen our English language reporting and its timeliness. In addition, the presence of a Western-trained journalist will also have a positive reinforcement on our local journalists. So this is where we plan to go. We are not obsessed with the numbers. But when somebody tells you, as John and I did today, that we are reaching 23 million people, this is not true. We have been quoted over 200 times a day in area of our broadcast countries. We have been quoted dozens of times a week in a major Western media. Yesterday, for instance, in 6 of them. We are third cited radio in Russia. We have never tried to count that audience. I will leave it to you. But it's much more than 23 million. So we count on you for your support to help us to take RFE to the next level. Thank you.
Thanks, John and Nenad. I mean, that was a wonderful presentation. It was great to see all the journalists. Thank you, everybody in Prague as well, and DC. I have a number of questions. I don't want to take over here, so let me open it up first, and hopefully all my questions will get answered. Any governors that want to, please have a seat. Any governors that want to ask questions, please dive in now. Does anybody have a question? Rick, go ahead.
I don't have a question, but I have a comment, and that's simply, as you all know, but I just want to say it publicly for the board, I want to commend your desire and efforts to expand Russian language news broadcasts, not only all across the region, but the creation of a half-an-hour daily Russian language newscast. I think under the circumstances of this kind of information battlefield that we're seeing in and around Russia and Ukraine, this is something that is exceptionally important and represents a true realization of your vision and your mission. And I just want to say how important that is and how much the board supports that.
Thank you. Thanks, Rick. Any other board members? Ryan?
Yes, let me again echo what a great presentation that was, and I particularly appreciated your focus on looking ahead. The new platforms, the new media, you're clearly on the cutting edge of that, and you're to be commended. We've talked about that this morning, but some of those very graphic video presentations underscores again the enormous risks that many of your journalists face, the danger they're in, and the losses they suffer. It's what makes you and our whole operation, I think, a unique media organization. But the human factor is pretty darn important. And finally, this seems like a small question, but I wonder if it raises a larger point, just as Dan led a very important effort to survey posts on shortwave utilization. Picking up on Rick Stengel's point, expanding the Russian service. Yes, critically important. But if I follow the graphic correctly, one of your targets for expanded Russian service is Tajikistan. You know, my understanding is that the national language of Tajikistan is Farsi, not Russian. So I kind of wonder how many folks that we're beaming Russian language at in Tajikistan actually speak that language. And kind of wonder, too, just have we got a full global grip on who speaks what where. You know, as we try to identify critical audiences.
Actually, it's a very good question, and one that actually we're dealing with right now. We're getting pulled as a company in 3 different directions as we're trying to do more with what we have. I'm not assuming additional resources at this point. We'll be under CR and whatever happens, so we're not assuming money's coming. So 3 directions. So when we're being tasked or asked to do more to respond to these challenges, where do we get the money from? Well, you know, one thought by some people has been, well, focus on Russian language and less on the vernacular. In my opinion, that's not the right way. So what you have is you want to speak to a lot of these countries in their own languages. You know, if you speak to them only in Russian, that's the language of the empire. So you want to be able to speak to them in the vernacular, so you have to at least maintain or enhance your ability to do those languages by the people in their cultures. When the issues are more regional focus, many of these countries do speak Russian and revert to Russian for regional issues. So if you want to talk to a Kazakh about what's going on in Belarus, Russian can reach them. So you can have a Central Asian website in Russian. Again, give it limited resources. That's the best way. And then also what we're finding is a demand for our English product. And I don't mean just here in the United States. Our stakeholders do love what we're producing here. But also among those speakers who don't speak the vernacular nor the Russian, the next language is English. So vernacular, Russian, and English, trying to do all that and build up the capabilities is something we're trying to do the best we can.
And I'd only add to the ambassador, having gone to Ukraine and Latvia a couple of months ago, in the region around Russia, so many of these countries are dual language with their native language and speak Russian. So in Ukraine, for example, 25 or 30% of the people are dual language. That's true all throughout the Baltics. And in this information battleground, they're the swing voters of who we're competing for to get our message to. So the idea of a kind of pan-Baltic, pan-regional Russian broadcast is really to reach not just pure Russian speakers, but dual language speakers. And one of the demographic phenomenons we've seen is that particularly among the younger citizens of these countries, they don't make a distinction between their native language and Russian. They listen and watch things in both languages, and we need to reach them. So that's part of the idea behind this.
This is exactly the point. I apologize. It's a regional approach. We are not targeting Tajikistan in Russia. We are targeting Central Asia in Russia. And Ambassador Crocker, for your information, in July we had 111,000 visits on our Tajik service Russian page, compared to the same service compared to the Tajik language. They had Tajik language page we had in July about 380,000 visits. So it's around 25%.
Yeah, and my daughter actually spent the summer in Dushanbe in Tajikistan in a State Department program for high school kids learning Tajik, and she was disappointed because the family she spent a lot of time watching Russian TV in the evening. So there's huge penetration of Russia. There still is, and it is still the language that sort of the elite used to some degree. I wanted to shift gears for a second. Given the current climate and given the significant interest on the Hill, the significant interest that the State Department has, and the important collaboration we're having with Undersecretary Stengel and his bureau, as you think something, if you could, there's one thing you could do that would just be outside the box, that could be a game changer that financially is not affordable. What would that be? What should we as governors think about as people ask us for outside the box ideas on something that could be a game changer that it's just not been affordable and it's just not been on the table?
Satellite TV for Russia. That's it. I think this is the time to go, this is the time to invest, this is the time to think. It's not only for Russia, it's Russian, in Russian. Mm-hmm. That will be the game changer.
And what would the cost be for something like that on an annual basis?
Well, I don't know that, but we are not talking here about peanuts.
Yeah.
We are
25, 50?
I'm not less than 50. Andrei, know better, I think.
So for standard television, satellite covering Russia, you'll probably be looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of $500,000.
That's it?
That's it.
The
But
satellite.
of course,
He's just talking the
just for the
satellite
transmission, but then you have to fill it up with the content, and that would be the important thing, and probably the most costly thing. If you're talking about high definition, which is likely to be, you know, where you want to be over the next 2-3 years, even today in a lot of places, then you're talking about maybe another third of that, so about maybe $750,000. Especially on the most popular satellites. As you can imagine, the price per satellite is highly dependent on the audience that satellite gathers, right? It's real estate, and so the most expensive real estate is a little more expensive.
The way I've been saying when I've gotten that question is, it depends. People want to talk about strategy first, and I kind of say, well, tell me what you're thinking about in terms of money, because I don't want to waste anyone's time talking about satellite TV 24/7 if that's not, you know, that's big money. So if we're talking $1 million, we can do some of what we've just been doing. You know, build out Kiev, do some of this programming, do some Crimea website, a real local focus. $1 million will get you that. $10 million will get you a really strong digital play with incredible content coming from all around this region. Satellite TV in terms of either an Ahura model or I even talk about a CNN type model. But then you're talking tens of millions, whether it's 25, 30, 40 million. Really depends on how many hours, the quality. If you're going to directly take on the Russians, as Brian does in the Middle East, it's got to be a very high quality, or else they won't even turn to it, both the style and the substance. So it really depends on what sort of money we're talking about.
Yeah, I saw something. Russia TV is a multi-billion-dollar entity, right?
No transparency, so you don't really.
Yeah.
I don't really know.
Governor's questions. I have a couple. Can you just totally shifting gears for a second? I know you guys have done great work on the Pangia platform, and I know maybe 6 months or a year ago there was a kind of cyber attack on it and penetration. Can you do a quick update for the board of how Pangia is doing and how secure it is and how that's going?
Maybe our director of Pangia team, Aladdin, can address this issue.
No, they can't.
No.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yep. Yes.
Okay. In this 6 months after we have a huge DDoS attack, we take a lot of measures basically to prevent it in the future. First thing what we did, we basically moved our domain name server, what was attacked. We moved to Akamai thanks to Andre and his team for basically support us the resources, basically money, funding. We moved to Akamai. Also, what we did, we also moved basically all sites, mobile and desktop, behind Akamai GTM, what also give us another basically level of the protection. And the third thing, in the recent days, basically also thanks to Andre, we are moving basically our site to behind the Akamai Prolexic protection, what is basically give us really best basically in the class protection in the world, because they have huge capability to something like 3.2 terabits capacity to protect us against DDoS. In that case, we are doing a lot of measures together with Akamai, and also we did a lot of measures inside basically our network to protect our infrastructure.
If I may, Jeff, real quick. So for those of you who don't know, DDoS is a distributed denial of service attack, which basically consists of flooding all the servers with spurious requests that prevent it from responding to legitimate requests. And so by moving it behind a network like Akamai, who actually distributes content on a global basis with thousands and thousands of servers and enormous bandwidth capability from a networking standpoint, you can absorb, 2 orders of magnitude attacks of what your normal traffic is and still respond to normal traffic. And so we felt like that would be the best way to offer them the best protection that is available nowadays, on just about any network.
Couple other questions and some hard ones here. So apologize in advance, but this is the time to deep dive into the network. So I encourage all the other governors to ask some hard questions too. Turning to, so obviously one region that you have that's particularly, that you're doing great work in is the whole Ukraine and Crimea region. Can you do a quick, there was a little bit of, in your video, you talked about the Crimea website, and so can you talk a little bit about what's going on in Crimea and what's going on in eastern Ukraine, and whether people are, what kind of reporting we're doing, and whether people are receptive in those regions, or whether you're finding hostility in those regions? Just maybe for the board's interest, give a quick overview of both your efforts and what you're finding on the ground there in those two regions.
Why do you call this question difficult one? Michael Michalisko is the regional director. Michael, would you like to address this issue?
The director is directly involved in the operation Crimea, Eastern Ukraine, and Kyiv. So, Mariana, please give a update on this issue. Thank you.
I would have to tell you that, of course, media environment and environment for our journalists is different in Crimea and Eastern Ukraine. In Crimea, we have a rather big operation. We have correspondents in major Crimean towns. The leader of the Crimean desk had to move outside of Crimea. And the majority of visitors come to the Russian webpage. They do come from Kyiv, some eastern Ukrainian cities, and they also, we have smaller audience from the Crimean Peninsula itself. In July, for instance, we had about 2 million visits to the Crimean website in Russian, Ukrainian, and Crimean Tatar. And a number of our people were approached by people linked with FSB, and they wanted to know who exactly works for the Crimean website. And we do believe that this is a successful project because it attracts a lot of audience. We have a lot of media, Ukrainian and some Russian, and also some British media regularly now quote Crimean website. It has a different brand name. It's called Crimea Realities. We also, in July, launched the television program on the national channel. It is cable channel, but also has the access to other Ukrainian regions. And this program, it's 20 minutes per week. In terms of Eastern Ukraine, it is much more difficult to get reports from Eastern Ukraine. The majority of people who basically we hired some new people and we lost some of them because they decided to leave the region. For instance, our correspondent in Donetsk already for a long while she changed. We do not mention her name in our broadcasts, and due to security risks, tomorrow she's planning to leave Donetsk. The same situation is with Luhansk region because it is half of the residents of the city had to leave the city. They're now for second week without electricity, without water. So it's really humanitarian crisis. How do we cover the region? We sent a special correspondent. He's originally from Donetsk to the towns that were liberated by the Ukrainian army. So he now prepares television programs from the field. Each week he prepares two programs from different towns talking about the problems of specific local communities, refugees, human rights, whatever. And now he is in that region. Also, we have a correspondent, we regularly send correspondent from Kyiv to either embedded with the Ukrainian army or with the paramilitary battalions. Levkostek is our
correspondent who is reporting from the battlefield. He is now third time in the region, and for instance, this week he shot one video of one battle. It was very successful. It was quoted on by Reuters, by Yahoo News, and on our Ukrainian Radio Svoboda YouTube page, it was viewed more than 250,000 times. So it is very important for us to cover the region. Also, we are sending next week another small team to the neighboring Luhansk region from Kiev, to the towns again already under control of the Ukrainian forces. We also cover the region from Prague in Kiev, contacting people who are still left in cities basically under siege, such as Luhansk. So it is difficult for us to cover, especially Donbass, but it is also a problem for many news outlets. In terms of Crimea, we believe that we face the same risks as the Russian service because we don't know what will happen with the website Crimea Realities, because we can expect basically anything. We are trying to reach people via Facebook, Twitter, and it remains to be seen how the Russian government would try to control new media in the region.
But can I ask a quick question? Just one quick question. How else are the local media in the Ukraine doing any kind of work? How good a job are they doing? And then, are you seeing other international organizations like the BBC doing anything there on a similar basis to what we're doing?
I think that Reuters is doing quite well in eastern Ukraine. I can compare the impact of Reuters. They're doing quite, because they have big network of correspondents in the region, and also so if this is compared, I can compare this only with Reuters. I'm not aware of BBC correspondents reported. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm about Ukrainian service of BBC. They don't report as actively as we do from Eastern Ukraine. Because talking about Eastern Ukraine, we have a television platform. Our partner for this television program, it's a local channel, Donbass. It's owned by the richest Ukrainian, Renat Akhmetov, and they now have this program twice per week, and they already expressed an interest in having our program on daily basis. Now we have to prepare the resources and to think about logistics, how it is able to do this. Because, for instance, we can easily prepare these programs with the host traveling in the region, but we would not be able to do this on the daily basis with him away. And I'm very happy that he joined our team. He's very active, good journalist, and I expect a lot from this project.
Just to add, visiting Kiev last week, so it was a pleasure to hear that the Ukrainian TV station, Ukrainian channels, they are taking a lot of our reporting into their programming. So some of them, they are not so active in that part of the region of the Ukraine because of the security risk. So we play kind of a strong role in connecting that community in the eastern Ukraine with the rest of the Ukrainian viewers.
Thank you. Just one more question for me, and then I'll turn it over to any other governors that have further questions. So when I got here, I was surprised how many people we had as a percentage of our overall people here in D.C. Versus out in the field around the world reporting. And so I've always been impressed and happy with the fact that we have such a large and dedicated group of people in Prague and all throughout your territories. So I commend all of you. One of the challenges that the board is grappling with, just to put it in the open meeting here, is that under the federal work rules, we have certain restrictions that we have to hire. If we have a U.S. citizen and a non-U.S. citizen applying for the same job, there's certain requirements that we're required to hire a U.S. citizen. Obviously, RFERL has the good fortune to be a grantee that gets a grant from the government and not a actual government entity. And I know there's been a lot of noise about non-citizen and citizen hire. So I guess it's a question for John and Nenad and for your team there. Number one, do you feel we're getting the ability to hire the people that we need to be able to hire out in the field? And two, there's been noise about us not treating people the same ways, whether they're a U.S. citizen or not a U.S. citizen, or whether they're employee or whatever. How do you guys grapple with that, and is there something we need to do better out there?
U.S. versus other citizens, not an issue for us. Those laws, as you indicated, don't apply to us. So we hire the best person. And remember, we're not here. We're in Prague. We're in the bureaus. We really are out there. So both legally and operationally, it's just not an issue for us. The biggest issue I think we have is going from where we were a year ago, and actually the entire BBG, all of international broadcasting, from where we were a year ago to, wait a second, Vladimir Putin has reminded people as to why we're all here and how important we are, positioning ourselves for hoping for eventual growth. But doing it the right way. We have to maintain, and Nenad can get more into this, we have to maintain good journalism. So in places like Turkmenistan, we have trouble getting in good journalists or just people that we can bring in and then train adequately. In Ukraine, we of course brought some additional people in. We'd like to bring more, but we have to make sure that the quality is good. These programs that we're creating, if they're not at a certain quality level, are not going to serve the purpose. So it's growing smartly and maintaining the quality is the biggest thing we're facing.
Just one sentence, close to 100 people, 100 journalists of our journalists, they're working under fake name.
I don't have any more questions. Any questions for governors? Matt, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, I don't have a question, possibly because I've been closely engaged with RFE for a bit now, especially around this Russia issue. Nenad and I traveled to the Lithuania and Latvia. Rick and you and I talked beforehand, and I had conversations with the EUR Bureau and met with folks. And Jeff Trimble has been deeply involved, and he and I have been talking about this. And what I want to say is that, John, your comments just now about being prepared is well in evidence and acknowledged. One of the comments in our travels were how impressed our interagency partners were that we were coming to the table with a plan that we were executing on. Not a handout, not a question, but let's get people on board, and that's having a real impact. I also want to say that I was in Kiev with Kevin Close at the end of January, and I saw Iron Man putting on his suit. He was demonstrating his suit then. And when I said your nickname should be Iron Man, he apparently he's never seen the movie. He hadn't a clue what that meant. Well, that's horrible. And I'm grateful that he doesn't need to use that old school style. And I'm sorry to tell you there's a market that you need to conquer now, Jeff. So that's all I've got.
Great, thanks, Matt. Iron Man, for the record, is not a Universal movie. So any other questions or comments from the board? Okay, this was I know you guys are doing fantastic work. This was actually, thank you to everybody in Prague. This was a great presentation. We all commend you for your great journalism and the good work you're doing, and for the presentation. One thing I would say is we yesterday in our fiscal 16 budget briefing reviewed a plan that Radio Free Asia and VOA are working on for a 24/7 channel to China, collaborating our resources. It seems like for a government like ours and for a nation like ours, a vision of having a 24/7 video channel for Russia shouldn't be something that we think is out of reach. So I think let's offline, outside the budget process, let's put together a plan for how much that would cost and how to do something that would compete for Russia today, and then let's go to the Hill and let's go to the White House and tell them what it's going to cost to compete, and let's see if we can do it. So let's not say no, and let's not be discouraged just because of the fiscal environment. It may be that we run into a brick wall and we can't do it, but let's at least figure out what it's going to cost us to do it. And Governor Weinstein, if you could work with these guys on that, it would be great. So thank you to everybody in Prague. We will be there next year. And sorry we're not there today, but thanks for all of your good work on behalf of the whole board and everybody here. We really appreciate and commend you for all your great work. So thank you. What I'm going to do now is Ben Rhodes is not available, I don't think, until about 12:15, if I'm not mistaken, here East Coast time. So I'm going to move that we actually officially adjourn the BBG formal board meeting because I know a number of governors have to leave at certain times to catch flights and stuff like that. Most should be able to stay through Ben's presentation, but just in case, we don't have to interrupt Ben and adjourn the meeting in the middle of him speaking. So before I do, our next board meeting is currently scheduled per our consent agenda for October 30th. We'll end in time for people to get home to your respective places to trick or treat on the next day. And we will be, as I talked about, we may be doing a deep dive in the IBB, although we'll be communicating publicly on that in coming days. We have something else that we may also do instead of that, in which case the IBB deep dive will be pushed back into December. But IBB staff, you should prepare as if it's going to be October 30th for a deep dive into the IBB. And we also have a panel on storytelling led by kind of former head of NBC, Ben Silverman, who created The Biggest Loser. So that'll be an interesting, different thing that we'll be able to experience next time. Any other further business for the board formally before we adjourn the meeting? Okay, I'd like to move that we adjourn the formal meeting and then reconvene a briefing from Ben Rhodes by video at 12:15. Is there a second? Second by Governor Armstrong. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? None opposed. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you at 12:15. Anybody who's interested in staying for the briefing.